Hey guys, what's up? Excoundrel here, and today we are going to be looking at tactics to help you win at Rules of Survival. This is not like my tips and tricks video that I did. That was very, very basic stuff, kind of stuff that I was learning at the same time as well. This is going to be a bit more advanced, and these tactics should help you come out on top in sticky situations in Rules of Survival. We're going to be covering quite a few topics, but these are some of the topics that I want to look at. Using crates and dead player loot as bait. Using third-person perspective to help you peek outside buildings, around trees, for instance. Knowing when it's safe to shoot, which is a really important part of Rules of Survival, especially if you don't have a silencer. And, playing safe for the top 10, because playing for the top 10 consistently will help you climb ranks more quickly. Even if you don't have the kills to back it up, just getting a top 10 position is going to be good. So let's start with using dead players and crates as loot bait. I did this in this video. So this video, I got to this point in the game, I got 6 kills, and I thought, actually, let's start recording, because obviously might be some good gameplay footage. I was just kind of playing this on my off time by myself. This is the life of a YouTuber, by the way. If you start playing a game and it's going well, it's like, oh crap, I need to record it. So what I did here is I got a motorbike very early on. I raced all the way to a crate. I got there first, I got the Barrett, and the crate was directly outside the building that you can see behind me. I then went into the building, and I basically sat behind the window in a crouched position. I had a fully stocked M4 ready to go, and 3 people separately came to the crate to try and loot it. Obviously, you won't see if the crate's been looted or not for the first time unless you go up to it. And 3 separate people came in the area to try and loot the crate. One person drove up on a motorbike, which is the guy that I'm running towards now. You can see his dead body. I killed him. One of them was right next to the crate, which I killed through the window. And another one was over the river. Now, I don't have a silencer, but I was just using the crate as a way to lure people in. I sat near the crate, I sat out of sight, and I used it to essentially bring people into my vicinity so I could get free kills on them. Pretty simple way, but you can also do it with dead players. Let's say that you kill a player. Let's say that you kill a player and they've got loot on them, and the box shows up, it's going to be in a populated area. You're pretty sure that people are going to pass through this area. You can use their dead body as bait. You can basically go sit behind a tree, you can prone or crouch in a bush, you can get into a building near the dead body, and you can just wait for people to walk by and loot it. If you're safe in the circle and you don't need to move and you don't mind camping, because I know camping can be a bit boring for some people, you can literally sit next to their body and wait for people to come up to it, and when they're looting, it's basically a free kill. So always try and use crates and sort of people's loot that they've dropped when they've died as bait for people. It's a really simple tactic. On the flip side of that, if you don't need to loot somebody, so say for instance, you're like me, you've got a Barrett with an 8x, you've got a fully stocked M4 with a 4x, you've got lots of med kits, you've got a level 2 helmet, a level 3 armor, you're doing pretty well. What would you ever need to loot from a dead person? I know it's tempting to go up to a dead person and try and loot them, but what would you ever need to loot that would help you from that body? If you've got all the weapons that you need, if you're pretty stocked out on the armor, you've got enough med supplies, what would you need to loot from them? I have made this mistake so many times. I get greedy. I go up to the body, I think, well, they could have a silencer, or that might help you win the game. But more often than not, people will be using that dead body as bait, or people will be staying around that dead body to try and pick people off who want to loot it. So it's important that you don't fall into the same trap. If you don't need anything from people's loot that they've dropped, don't bother trying to loot it. The next one is a fairly quick point, but it is a point that is worth remembering. If you're a player of things like PUBG or H1Z1 or anything on the PC that is like a battle royale, you'll know that the third-person perspective is often frowned upon by top-tier players, and they often like to go to first-person, which is why PUBG introduced a first-person. The reason is because third-person can be used to unfairly gain, an advantage on your opponent, especially if you're in a position of cover, by finding their position without actually having to look. So for instance, if I'm in a building and let's say I see someone outside, but I can't really identify where they are, or they're right next to the wall. If I'm in a building, I can use the perspective of my third-person character to look out the window over the wall without actually having to look over the wall myself. I can do it from behind trees. I can use the third-person perspective behind a tree to search for someone's position behind a tree without revealing myself out of cover. And you can do it in a whole manner of things. So if you have it available, since the Rules of Survival is third-person only, why not use it to your advantage? Use that third-person perspective to scout people out when you're in a position of cover. And I mean that in the sense that if you're getting shot at and you don't know where you're getting shot at from, or you know that someone is kind of crawling around outside and you want to figure out where they are, you can use that third-person perspective to get a good idea about where the person that is firing you from. I'll take this as an example. I have been shot at from a location that I feel is in that general direction that I'm looking right now. I'm not quite sure where the person is. I need more time to figure it out while I'm healing. But I can use the third-person perspective without getting myself out from behind this tree to kind of locate where this person is. Once I've located where this person is, by using that third-person perspective, I can then safely pop out and take a shot. I still haven't figured it out yet because I've been too busy bandaging myself. But I think I've got a pretty good idea that he's in the field right now. So you can see I'm leaning, and I've basically identified him with a third-person position, and I get a free kill on him because I've seen him crawling in the field. And when you're crawling and you're prone, your head is first, your head is forward, so you just need to shoot at the person, and you're guaranteed to get a headshot, really. And I used that with my third-person perspective. So always remember to use your third-person perspective, kids. It definitely helps you, especially when you're the player in a position of cover. The next is knowing when it is safe to shoot. Now, this can be a very tough topic, especially because it's never really an absolute guaranteed safe time to shoot all the time, especially if you don't have a silencer. It's always going to be a risk when you take a shot in a position where you're not covered. So when you're deciding when it is safe to shoot, as I'm just about to kill this guy. By the way, I just want, before we move on with this point, this is another example of using the third-person perspective to scout out the guy when you're the one that's in a position of cover. And also another tip, especially when you're in this kind of situation in your 1v1, scouting around a tree, don't go prone. If you go prone, your head is the first thing that the enemy is going to hit with their bullets, realistically. So you're making it far easier for the enemy to headshot you if you're in one of those situations. Make sure you're either crouching or even stood up if you have to be. But proning, especially when the enemy knows where you are and knows where you're proning, you are asking to get headshots, so make sure you don't do that. So back to the point that I was making. Knowing when it is safe to shoot can be a very difficult topic, because obviously if you shoot and you don't have a silencer, you're going to reveal yourself in a very wide area to people around you. I always do a couple of checks before I shoot, unless I'm like in an emergency situation and have to shoot. If I'm shooting from a position of cover or shooting someone long range and I'm about to take a pop at them and I don't quite know if there is anybody around me, I do a couple of checks. I make sure that I look around the area. I look at the sort of the common places that people would be hiding, in windows of buildings, in bushes, proning in the grass. I make sure I scout out as much of the area as I can, either with the eye tool or just looking around and moving around. And obviously if I can sort of say to myself, there's not likely to be anybody here, I sort of rack that down as a sort of one check on sort of my checks about whether I'm going to fire. The next check is, am I shooting from a good position of cover? If I walk into the middle of a field and take a shot at somebody from long range and I'm just trying to shoot someone in the middle of the field, I am asking to get killed. Like, I am just asking for someone to shoot me. If I am behind a rock, or if I am shooting over a ridge, or if I'm behind a tree, at least I am covering some of the angles. At least I am, or shooting from a building, for instance. At least I know that some of my angles I cannot get shot from. So always make sure that you're shooting from a position where you know that you have covered some angles with terrain, or you know that you're not going to get caught out. That's another important thing about choosing when to shoot. If you've got a silencer, shoot whenever the hell you like, because silencers are OP. And a point that follows on from this is you don't have to shoot everybody. Just because you see someone doesn't mean that you have to shoot. If you are not in a good position to take that shot, and you will reveal yourself, and revealing yourself could end up getting you killed, you don't have to take the shot if you don't want to. It's very, very acceptable to play a stealth game, let the enemies kill each other, and then when you're pretty sure that there's the last person left alive, you can go for the kill. Playing for the top 10 is a very valid strategy that will help you climb the ranks quickly. Even if you don't get a kill and you make it to the top 10, you get quite a good amount of points. Another instance of me using the third-person perspective to look around the fence there. I'm sure he did the same to me, but again, that's one of those situations where you can scout someone out that's sort of following you up. But back to the top 10. It's important that you don't always go for kills. If you're sitting on the top of a hill and you haven't scouted out the hill, you see someone, unless they are shooting at you, if they haven't seen you, you don't have to shoot them. Make sure that you really look after yourself in terms of your own positioning first. If you stay safe and play the stealth game and move slowly and only take shots when you're absolutely sure that you're not going to get punished for it, it's very viable to just play for the top 10, because playing for the top 10 guarantees you a lot of points. If you're wondering how that game ended out, I didn't follow my own advice. I shot someone out in the open, and a guy literally about 5 meters from me in a bush killed me. I got 10 kills, but I didn't win the game. I did get top 10 though, so I got quite a lot of points for it. But regardless, those are some tips that I picked up from playing, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit from it.